Hello YouTube, Trademark Kill here, and today we have a RWBY episode that came out on Christmas Eve. Today's the 24th, you'll be seeing this on the 25th when the episode is available to everyone. But let me just say, I'm going to speed through this as fast as I can because I got guests coming over for Christmas, so hopefully I don't miss anything important. So let's get into the RWBY Talk episode number 7. So we start off with the Oscar character we've been seeing, and that we have now recently been introduced that is in some way related to Ozpin. And it's pretty interesting because now it seems like a little time has passed since the first encounter, and when he looked in the mirror and heard Ozpin's voice. But they are now kind of in a huge disagreement, and this is coming between a lot of speculation about what's happening here. Now, if you watch the episode, which you should, which is linked in the description down below, if you have not seen the episode, we'll link it directly to the Rooster Teeth site. There's some speculation that maybe either Ozpin has such a powerful and control over his aura, he can have his aura leave his body and implant it into a new host. It's either that or his semblance. If it's his semblance that allows him to move his aura between hosts, what is interesting about that idea is that could also explain why he makes his aura so strong, is because he needs it to fight and then also use his semblance and also have enough remaining. So since he doesn't have like a combat semblance, and his semblance is more about survival, he's trained himself more in his use of aura. Also, it'll help him possibly project, because if you think about where his body is in the Veil Academy, the Beacon Academy, and now he is somewhere in Mistral. That's a very far length of space that would have to, his aura would have to travel. So by training his aura, he makes that more available. Or his semblance is that he can be anyone whose first letters of their name sounds like Oz. So Oscar. Either or, that's pretty much it. But seeing how unwilling Oscar is to this basically task that he's been chosen for kind of makes you feel like, and especially since we can kind of speculate that Ozpin was not the first host, right? He was not the originator. Ozpin, the body that we know of, not the aura, that body was not the original host of that body. It's quite possible that if we also go down the line to the four seasons, it's possible that wizard is Ozpin, and we've always kind of speculated that, and that he's just kind of thrown his aura into different bodies and brought new hosts every time one was needed when he was supposed to die. And he lost the fight against against Cinder. He would then move his body to Oscar. So it's completely possible that there is kind of that dark side to him, where it's like, I do what I do because my goal or my objective in life is more important, that I need to infest these bodies to live in order to continue protecting the world. So basically, the end goal is righteous, but the reasoning and the methods are the dark side of what he does. And so it's very much kind of like that, it seems. Like he's going to have to force the character Oscar, to obey him, or possibly completely take control of his body and cast out his aura, which would be incredibly dark, incredibly bad for a character that we thought was almost like the high pinnacle of good. But also, can you say you did not expect that? I don't think there's very much characters in TV shows or anime that are the pinnacle of good, where every fiber of their being is good. They do no wrong at all. There's always that dark side to the light. There's always that the ends justify the means. And by imprisoning these characters, basically, by taking their bodies in order to kind of renew himself with his aura, is kind of a darker side of this. And it's possible that we see either a cooperation, though. It's possible that Oscar and Ozpin cooperate and move down the line. And also, it will give a lot of more things to the Man with Two Souls idea. that we heard in Volume 1 with the book that Blake was reading. And it's possible that happens, is that there is a cooperation happening between the two, but it's also possible that Ospen says, we can't wait any longer, either you listen to me or I take over your entire body and I do what I have to do to save the world. Because he does mention to Oscar that, that when the world was in need, you stuck your hand out to help. So that could be a situation where Oscar sees the light and helps, or we could really start to see how dark and dreary Ospen's calling in life is by having him force either the force control of the body, or force the aura and being of Oscar out of his own body to take full control. The second scenario we step into is the scenario with Weiss, that she is being locked in her house, in her mansion, and she will only leave the grounds when instructed by her father due to her actions at the fundraiser. And of course, one of the first things her father mentions is that it's not about Leanne, it's about the family reputation. And probably more so about the Leanne, but there is some reputation damage that's been done to the Schnee family name. And we actually see Jacques get physical with Weiss by slapping her when she mentions that he was not a part of the family, but he married into it, which we learned in the last World of Remnant. But this is finally the calling card for Weiss. The entire scene is that basically she's done too much damage. They're going to use the excuse that the events of the fall of Beacon has made her unsafe to be the heir of the Schnee family name, and that they're going to publicly release that she intentionally and by her own will relieved her right to be the heir of the Schnee family dynasty. That would go to her brother, Whitley, who, by the looks of it, might have had a hand, and as I kind of speculated in the last episode, might have had a hand in what actually happened. Whether he summoned the Boratusk and caused that much of a outcry, or whether he, in some way, manipulated his father's actions to do this against Weiss. But he is now the heir to the Schnee Dust Company, and Weiss is no longer it because they're locking her away. They're going to publicize that she intentionally, due to her traumatization about the fall of Beacon, she's no longer fit to be the heiress. But this is the calling card for Weiss because it's allowing her to finally say, you know what? No, I'm done. She asked to be allowed to leave and pursue her dreams of being a huntress. She was denied that, and she's done playing that game, and now she's going to play her own game. And we can see her kind of rearranging the room, like we see in the opening cinematic for this show, where she is training with Myrtenaster, and we finally see Myrtenaster be picked up and wielded by Weiss before we cut to the final scene. But I just want to talk a little bit more about Weiss and her calling. Over the since the beginning of my speculation series with RWBY Volume 4, I have very much said that Weiss might be the leader, might be one of the first to break out of her predicament. And I still think that might be a situation, but I don't think it's going to be as clean as I thought. I think there's going to be some trials and tribulations. Part of me says her escaping the Schnee Manor is not going to be as clean and as kind of like sneak out the window and run away at nighttime as it seems, because there's going to be a lot of people on guard. So I don't think it's going to be that easy for her to actually escape. I think there's going to be some sort of trial and tribulation of her basically forfeiting everything about her Schnee heritage that she has. And whether that's in a situation where she says, I'm done, I'm going to walk out and I'm going to live free, and then there's going to be people who are going to try to stop her, that she's going to have to very forcefully push to the side. That might be a situation. It would definitely give the character a lot of edge in terms of her actions, because you really think that, especially with how RWBY acted a little bit in the fight scene later and how everything's kind of happening, we have a lot of characters that are growing a very sharp and callous edge, and Weiss would not be that character. So it's possible that she kind of remains more pure and very level-headed. But I think she is going to have to see a lot of things go on, and I think this is going to be the evolution of her kind of having a tilt in terms of her past. Although even if she kind of like, even if she has to go full evil by like shoving people out of the way with her semblance and just shoving people around to get out of the Schnee Manor, what I think is going to be an issue for her is that she's going to live with that guilt, but then she's going to be that kind of open of, yes, we've had to do this. Yes, we've seen these things, but we don't have to let the past define us. And that's going to be kind of her message, and that's how she's going to remain the level-headed mentor or guiding light to the other three girls and anyone she comes across. That's going to be kind of her aim, to go down and going to become that guiding light through not having a blind kind of feeling towards it, but having I've been there, I know I feel your pain, but this is what we have to do type of guiding light. So I think she still is going to be in that position. I think it was just going to give her a little bit more background to qualify her for that position. The last scene we get is the scene with the Tyrion and Crow fight scene. I thought they were going to put this off a little bit longer, but no, they're going right into it, which is cool. And it starts out with Team Ranger trying to help, and Team Ranger trying to help Crow. Crow asks them to stay back, stay at afar. Ruby takes this quite literally by jumping on a roof and taking a sniper position, which actually is kind of smart, because when Crow gets his sword taken away, that gives an opportunity for her to open fire because there's distance, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get too far into recapping it. I just want to give my thoughts on it. This is a good storytelling moment for RWBY as a character, just her as a character, because we've seen Jean, right? We've seen his effect and how he's been training nonstop at night when with the scroll video that Pyrrha gave him. But we also have seen now we've seen Ruby's effect, where under no circumstances does she want her teammates or anyone she knows and loves get hurt, and that meant fighting by Crow's side and even becoming a detriment towards the end when he gets hit by Tyrion. So this is giving her that kind of, as I said, that lust for vengeance, or lust to the overzealousness to try and fight and try to be more useful than she felt she was previously, even though she was completely outmatched. I do think this is a very interesting kind of development. I do think that this can start a void. I don't think previously I thought there was going to be a void between Crow and Team Ranger. I don't think that's going to happen anymore, because I think Crow's going to be much more of a mentor to the team now, because it has this kind of what seems, because if you think about right now, we have a mentor for Yang and her father. We will have Crow have a mentor, and I would not be surprised if the butler, can't remember his name right now, sorry, to Weiss becomes kind of a mentor to Weiss as well, in a way. And then we just have Blake, who could be her father, her mother, who could be basically almost anyone at this point, if we think about it, a mentor someone who could mentor Blake. Because we're a menagerie, and the Faunas have a close-knit community in menagerie, so it could be really anyone or no one. She could be the mentorless warrior that we kind of sought after, or I've kind of been promoting in my videos prior. But we do see a lot of RWBY's overzealousness in this episode, and it's very interesting because we see her and her uncle fight side by side, which they don't seem like they have bad chemistry fighting. But also, if you think about it, Crow also taught her how to be a scythe meister in a sense. So it makes sense why why they would have some sort of chemistry fighting together. But it's also kind of weird that Crow didn't go full scythe. Although if you think about it, in the situation, a scythe would have had a disadvantage against an opponent with two weapons, because there's a lot less movement to it. It's a lot longer. It's a lot bulkier, and he has to be more agile to be able to dodge the attacks. So it explains. It sucks that he didn't go full scythe, because you think that's like Crow's like death mode is all right, I want you to die. I don't want you to be around anymore. So I'm going to go scythe mode and I'm going to destroy you. That's not the case. But we get an amazing fight scene nonetheless, and one that, when you think down deep into the idea of the scythe and what happens, is it makes sense of why he wouldn't go scythe mode, because he needs to be able to block 2 attacks instead of just 1. And then there's also another kind of controversy that's going on, is the idea that at the end of the fight, Crow gets grazed across the chest by Tyrion. His eyes change to purple, which is interesting, which I do think that it's possible that his eyes have 2 different colors depending on what he's using in terms of poison or acid. I think personally that Crow did not get poisoned. Reason why Tyrion wouldn't poison Crow is that he was going to set up a death blow later in the fight, because he thought the fight was going to last longer than it did. And he wanted to set up a death blow by putting acid inside of a wound, even if at that point it would have hurt, it would have caused a lot of discomfort, would have made fighting difficult for Crow, which would have opened up a death blow that Tyrion would be able to do. That plan got thwarted, by RWBY when she cut off his tail. Now, he ran away because that probably was really painful. That was probably equal to the strike he did to Crow. Would have hindered him in combat just as much as the cut against Crow's chest. So people are saying that Crow is poisoned. I do not agree. I think it was some sort of acid that was used to set up a death blow against Crow for basically a chess match. You're gonna play this card. You're gonna play this piece. Piece doesn't look that big of an issue, but it's going to set up a much bigger death blow later. That's basically the entire idea of what I think Tyrion was doing. He underestimated RWBY and Team Ranger. RWBY thought on her feet, cut off his tail, forcing him to retreat. I do not think Crow's going to die at this moment from poison. It's possible that it happens later, though, through Tyrion. Tyrion says, I'm not going to take you lightly anymore, and decides to go straight for poisonous attacks instead of just acid attacks. But I do not think he's poisoned. I think that it was a chance to it was a acid attack to set up a death strike later, to set up a fatality later. But then we get the interesting idea of what's your favorite fairy tale, that's when they cut the credits. Crow asks RWBY what's her favorite fairy tale. That is interesting. I do not know. We might get an idea, like a remix of the Wizard of Oz, but I'm not sure. It would be very interesting to have a Wizard of Oz type feel to it, and it's going to be interesting to go forward in this situation, because we have basically what they're setting up is another World of Remnant that they could do next week for New Year's. So we might get another World of Remnant to finish off the holiday season and go right back into all of the all the crazy stuff. And that's kind of what I'm expecting. I'm still expecting to do this. I'm expecting a World of Remnant next week, but then I kind of also think that after that World of Remnant, we're going straight to the end of the season. We're not going to have any more World of Remnants. So that's what I'm hoping for. And and also I just want to clarify why I think it was poison, why I think it was acid real quick. Sorry, I forgot to mention this before. Is when his tail gets cut off and it hits the ground, it looks like it melts or burns the ground. And, that's only acid can do that. There's no poison that also, unless I'm completely wrong, there's no poison that it is also will melt things, right? There's no poison that can burn concrete. But really, that's all I have to say today. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, Trey goes out. Peace.